I want to be very clear. I unequivocally condemn the violence that we saw last week. Violence and vandalism have absolutely no place in our country. I am calling on all Americans to overcome the passions of the moment and join together as one American people. Let us choose to move forward united for the good of our families, our communities, and our country.
President Trump condemning the violence at the Capitol last week, calling for unity ahead of next week's inauguration. The president addressed the nation in a video yesterday, the same day the House voted to impeach the president for a second time. Joining us now to discuss this is Boris Epshteyn, a strategic advisor for Trump campaign. Boris, thanks for joining us. We watched yesterday as House Democrats, 10 Republicans voted to impeach the president. No one from the Trump campaign or legal team had a voice at these proceedings. Is there something you think the president would like to say about this second impeachment?
Well, I think the president has been very specific, and thank you for having me, of course. The president has been very specific that this is a time for unity, full stop. Also, he's been specific that he has no part, he had no part in those terrible riots that did happen at the Capitol. The president urged a peaceful and patriotic march to the Capitol during the rally, during his speech, and he's consistently insisted that his supporters, the MAGA movement, the MAGA crowd, be peaceful. And the president has stated that time and time again, including when he went to Texas on Tuesday.
Boris, even in his final days, President Trump being kicked out the door, at least trying to, did the president do enough? How did we get to this point?
The president has done his absolute best to actually work across the aisle. If you think about his relationship with Nancy Pelosi, his relationship even with Chuck Schumer when he had them over in the Oval Office throughout these last 4 years, he had tried to reach across the aisle. But the Democrats have just been way too triggered by the president's being. And you're seeing that in this canard, completely contrived impeachment that they rushed through, only leaving 1 or 2 hours for debate.
Take me to January 21st. At that point, you will have a Biden presidency. President Trump moves on. What would be next? How would you advise President Trump in the days after leaving office?
Well, President Trump is going to continue to be a leader of a movement. Polling came out today that there's widespread support for this president, over 70% support for the president among the Republican Party. In terms of potentially running for 2024, the support on its face, the president is at about 90% among Republicans. So this president is the leader of the MAGA movement, the leader of the current Republican Party, and he's going to continue to be so after January 20th.
Boris, do you advise the president? Do you tell him to, this is a question that's been asked even in media outlets, do you tell him to back off the election fraud claims? Do you continue to push that? Do you move on from it?
Well, the president obviously is the leader of the country right now, and he continues to be the leader of the Republican Party. And it's his prerogative to go out there and make the statements that he chooses to do, to make the points that he focuses on. And you saw yesterday, he focused on unity. He focused on the country going forward. I will tell you from my perspective that we have to look at the election system in this country. We have to look at the problems with mail-in voting and ensure that the deep issues that we faced in 2020 do not happen in future elections.
The president's biggest megaphone taken away from him, his Twitter account. This is how you knew the inner workings of this man's head. He was so readily accessible. That was taken. Jack Dorsey put out tweets explaining why he did it. It gets a little bit in the mud as far as his response. But my question is this. How President Trump has some 70, 80 million followers, those that voted for him, those that support him, and maybe more than that. Some would argue that. How does he reach out to them after leaving office?
Well, first of all, to your point, the censorship from Twitter is absolutely unacceptable. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, as you just mentioned, even Pinterest choosing to ban the president, even though that makes absolutely no sense. It's not like he's putting together collages of pictures. The mainstream media and the big tech censorship of this president are absolutely unacceptable, and they are against the First Amendment. This president has a huge following, as you mentioned. 74 million people voted for him. His Twitter following was almost at 90 million. And for these companies to say, no, you cannot speak to these people who want to hear from the president is absolutely unacceptable. And we have to delve into whether they're legally allowed to silence the president. A court ruled the president couldn't block people. So then how can these companies block the president from speaking to the people? The president is going to continue to reach out, to continue to speak directly to his followers, directly to the American people. And you've seen that even in the last few days with the video that you played, with the message and the statement that was put out yesterday. The president continues to speak and reach out and have a connection directly with the American people.
Okay, but then do you see, because he can't do that on Twitter, I don't know if he's going to be allowed to, do you see him doing more television interviews at this point? I just don't see him stepping out of this spotlight, stepping away from the microphone, if you will. Do you see him making the rounds on network TV?
I think you're going to see the president on a wide variety of outlets and ways to reach the American people. I'm not going to speak to anything specifically, but Twitter and Instagram and Facebook are not the only ways that the American people see their leaders. And President Trump continues to be one of the key leaders and the key leader for the Republican MAGA movement.
All right. I appreciate your time. Always good to see you, Boris Epshteyn. Thank you so much.
Good to see you. Thanks so much.
Newsmax TV is now America's fastest growing cable news channel. We give you the real news you need. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up. If you like this video, share it with your friends. Newsmax TV streams live on YouTube for free. Newsmax TV, real news for real people.